From Pacifica, this is Democracy Now!
And we saw that just in the last week with a group of people, a small group of people, just Catholics in the United States of America, who were told, you have a right to health care, but you will have the health care that we tell you you have to give your people, whether it is against the teachings of your church or not.
Rick Santorum sweeps Minnesota, Missouri, and Colorado as Republican presidential candidates take aim at the Obama administration over the Catholic Church, contraceptives, and health care. All this as a top official at the breast care charity Komen resigns after its controversial decision to defund Planned Parenthood backfires. We'll look at how reproductive rights are becoming a major issue in the 2012 race. Then, the New York Police Department's under mounting criticism after police shoot dead an unarmed teenager in his own home.
From the stop and frisk policy! From the stop and frisk policy! Where Romney was brutally targeted! Where Romney was brutally targeted! Ran up in his home! Ran up in his home! And shot point blank! And shot point blank! This is not about finding criminals! About finding criminals!
All that and more coming up. Welcome to Democracy Now!, democracynow.org, The War and Peace Report. I'm Amy Goodman. Former Pennsylvania Senator Rick Santorum has surged in the Republican presidential contest with wins in Minnesota and Colorado caucuses, as well as a non-binding primary in Missouri. Santorum claimed nearly 45% of the vote in Minnesota, with Ron Paul coming in second at about 27%, Mitt Romney taking third with about 17%. In Colorado, Santorum beat Romney by about 5 percentage points. At the end of the night, Santorum addressed his supporters in Missouri.
Wow! Conservatism is alive and well in Missouri and Minnesota. I hope you have been listening to our message, because if you listened to our message and you found out that on those issues, health care, the environment, cap and trade, and on the Wall Street bailouts, Mitt Romney has the same positions as Barack Obama. And in fact, would not be the best person to come up and fight for your voices for freedom in America.
The wins are expected to revive Santorum's floundering campaign and pose a new challenge to Republican frontrunner and former Massachusetts Governor Mitt Romney. Speaking in Denver, Romney congratulated Santorum but vowed to win the race.
This was a good night for Rick Santorum. I want to congratulate Senator Santorum. Wish him the very best. We'll keep on campaigning down the road, but I expect to become our nominee with your help. So I want to congratulate all of my fellow Republicans, particularly Senator Santorum, and I look forward to the contest to come.
The Republican contest shifts to Maine this weekend before Arizona and Michigan later this month and the Super Tuesday contests in early March. A U.S. appeals court has ruled California's ban on same-sex marriage is unconstitutional. California outlawed same-sex marriage in 2008 when voters passed the ban known as Proposition 8. On Tuesday, a 3-judge panel struck down the ban in a 2-to-1 decision. Writing for the majority, Judge Stephen Reinhart stated, quote, Proposition 8 serves no purpose and has no effect other than to lessen the status and human dignity of gays and lesbians in California and to officially reclassify their relationship and families as inferior to those of opposite-sex couples. Outside the courtroom, co-plaintiffs Chris Perry and Sandy Steer hailed the ruling.
We can see a place where freedom and respect come more easily and where protection from harm is what our government does for us and not to us.
Today, our court sends a powerful message to us and to our children and our children's children, and that is that we are all equal, we all deserve the same rights, and we all matter.
The ruling overturning Prop 8 won't take effect for another 2 weeks. The case is expected to ultimately reach the Supreme Court. A senior executive at the breast cancer charity Susan G. Komen for the Cure has resigned 1 week after reportedly engineering the controversial decision to stop funding Planned Parenthood. Karen Handel stepped down as Komen's vice president for public policy on Tuesday, just days after Komen reversed a decision to stop supporting Planned Parenthood's education and breast care for low-income women. A staunchly anti-abortion Republican, Handel has been identified as the leading official behind Komen's initial move to stop supporting Planned Parenthood. But in a statement when she resigned, she said she was certainly not the only one. Karen Handel ran for governor of Georgia on an anti-Planned Parenthood ticket. An apparent U.S. drone strike has killed at least 10 people in Pakistan's North Waziristan region. Pakistani officials say the attack targeted a compound believed to be holding anti-government fighters. The Obama administration has resumed drone strikes in Pakistan following a brief lull following the mistaken killing of 24 Pakistani soldiers late last year. You can go to our website at democracynow.org for our story on how U.S. drones have been accused of killing dozens of civilians who'd gone to rescue victims or were attending funerals. The New York Times is reporting the U.S. may cut its presence in Iraq by as much as half due to security concerns and Iraqi resistance. Nearly 16,000 people, most of them contractors, are employed at the U.S. Embassy in Baghdad, which costs $6 billion annually and is the largest of its kind in the world. Meanwhile, the Washington Post's reporting the CIA will maintain a large covert presence in Iraq and Afghanistan after troops depart. U.S. officials say the CIA's paramilitary forces could be used in Afghanistan, in part to maintain airstrips used by CIA drones operating in Pakistan. The CIA missions in both Iraq and Afghanistan are expected to be the agency's largest in the world. Syrian forces are continuing their deadly assault on the flashpoint city of Homs in a bid to crush a center of resistance to the regime of President Bashar al-Assad. Witnesses say dozens of people were killed overnight in continued shelling and rocket attacks from Syrian tanks. In Washington, State Department spokesperson Victoria Nuland chided Syrian allies Russia and China for backing Assad.
Well, we've made absolutely clear how we feel, both bilaterally and publicly, about regimes that continue to trade arms with the Syrian government. They're simply fueling the violence. If, in fact, Assad supports the end of violence, he knows what he can do today, which he has neglected to do for these 11 months. He can stop the attacks by his forces on innocents in cities across Syria. And the violence continues in Homs, in Hama, around the outskirts of Damascus, etc., as so many of you are now able to report.
The assault on Homs comes amidst a visit to Syria by the Russian Foreign Minister Sergei Lavrov. On Tuesday, Lavrov said Assad is ready to end the violence despite the ongoing bloodshed in Homs. Meanwhile, in Syria's neighboring country of Lebanon, Hezbollah leader Hassan Nasrallah spoke out on the Syrian crisis Tuesday in a speech to supporters in Beirut. Nasrallah called for dialogue between Assad and the Syrian opposition.
Those who are afraid for the people of Syria and the future of Syria do not say it's too late and set conditions for dialogue. Either the president stands down or no dialogue. Those who care about Syria should go to dialogue. In every crisis in Lebanon, when the Arabs came to resolve these crises, they called us to a dialogue and said no conditions. So now why in Syria they call for dialogue with preconditions?
The United Nations Children Fund, UNICEF, is now warning at least 400 children have been killed in the 11 months since the violence in Syria began. UNICEF spokeswoman Marixi Mercado said children are among the victims of the assault on Homs.
Nearly 11 months of violence in Syria have led to the deaths and injuries of hundreds of children. There are reports of children being arbitrarily arrested, tortured, and sexually abused while in detention. Over the past few days, reported heavy shelling by government forces of civilian neighborhoods in the city of Homs is undoubtedly causing further suffering for more children.
And a new study has found homegrown terror plots from Muslim extremists pose little threat to the United States when compared to other groups. The Triangle Center on Terrorism and Homeland Security found 20 Muslim Americans were charged in violent plots or attacks in 2011, down from 26 in 2010 and 47 in 2009. Of the 14,000 murders committed in the United States last year, none resulted from Islamic extremism. The author of the report, Charles Kurzman, said terrorism by Muslim Americans is a minuscule threat to public safety. The report's findings come amidst an ongoing controversy in New York over the heightened surveillance of Muslim communities by the New York police. South Carolina has gone ahead with a lawsuit against the federal government for blocking a recent law requiring voters to show photo IDs at the polls. The Justice Department declared in December the law violates the Voting Rights Act, citing data showing minority voters were about 20% more likely to lack acceptable photo ID required at polling places. It was the first such law overruled by the Justice Department in nearly 2 decades. On Tuesday, South Carolina filed suit rejecting the government's claim that the law will disenfranchise voters. And those are some of the headlines. This is Democracy Now!, democracynow.org, The War and Peace Report. I'm Amy Goodman.
And I'm Nermeen Sheikh. Welcome to our listeners and viewers around the country and around the world.